Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched the stars bend around them as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The ship shuddered slightly as it returned to normal space, and Jake felt his stomach settle. After the brief moment of disorientation that always came with interstellar jumps. 300 years had passed since humans first left Earth, and they had finally made contact with other intelligent life in the galaxy. Captain Lisa Harper walked up beside him, her diplomatic uniform crisp and clean for this historic moment. She carried a data pad with all the protocols they had developed for first contact situations, though nobody really knew what to expect when meeting an alien civilization. The communications officer turned from his station and nodded to Jake, indicating that the alien ship was responding to their hail. The main screen flickered to life, and Jake got his first look at a non-human intelligence. The creature was tall and reptilian, with smooth green scales and large golden eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. When it spoke, its voice was smooth and melodious, almost hypnotic in its cadence. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien sighed. "I am Ambassador Vexthara of the Galactic Federation. We have been watching your species with great interest as you spread across the stars. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to welcome you into our great alliance of civilized worlds." Lisa stepped forward and activated the translation system, though the alien seemed to speak perfect English. "Thank you for your welcome, Ambassador. I am Captain Lisa Harper, representing the United Earth Government. We are honored to make contact with your Federation." Vexthara smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth that somehow managed to look friendly rather than threatening. The Federation consists of 12 species who have worked together for thousands of years to bring peace and prosperity to the galaxy. We offer advanced technology, protection from hostile forces, and trade opportunities that will benefit your entire species. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake, the ship's intelligence officer, monitored the conversation from his station while running deep scans on the alien vessel. What he saw made him frown. The ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Defiance, and its energy readings were off the charts. More concerning were the weapon signatures his sensors were detecting. This was not just a diplomatic vessel. Over the next several hours, Vexthara painted a picture of a galaxy filled with wonders and opportunities. The Federation controlled most of the habitable worlds in their region of space, maintaining peace through superior technology and military might. They offered humanity membership in their alliance, promising to share medical advances, industrial techniques, and defensive capabilities that would transform human civilization overnight. Lisa found herself impressed by the ambassador's presentation, but Ryan continued his analysis of Federation records that Vexthara had provided. What he discovered in the historical data made his blood run cold. Every species that had joined the Federation followed the same pattern. They were welcomed with grand promises, given minor technological improvements, and then gradually stripped of their independence and resources. The records showed world after world being protected by Federation forces until the native populations became little more than servants in their own homes. Species that resisted were labeled as dangerous and eliminated. The Federation did not seek partners or allies. They sought subjects and slaves. Ryan shared his findings with Jake and Lisa in private, away from the diplomatic meetings. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. Humanity was not being offered membership in a galactic alliance. They were being marked for conquest and enslavement. When they confronted Vexthara with this evidence, the ambassador's friendly demeanor vanished like smoke. The reptilian's golden eyes turned cold and predatory, and his voice lost all pretense of warmth. "You are more perceptive than most species," he said. "Very well, let us speak plainly." The main screen changed to show Earth's solar system, surrounded by thousands of alien warships. Admiral Kate Sullivan appeared on a secondary screen from Earth's defense headquarters, her face grim. "Jake, they've got us completely surrounded. I count over 10,000 ships, and our sensors can barely scratch their hull plating." Vexthara's smile returned, but now it held only menace. "Humanity will submit to Federation protection, or humanity will cease to exist. You have 72 hours to surrender your military forces and submit to our guidance. This is not a negotiation. This is an ultimatum. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge of the Defiance in stunned silence. Jake looked around at his crew, seeing fear and determination in equal measure on their faces. They were facing impossible odds against an enemy that had conquered dozens of other civilizations. Back on Earth, President Maria Santos received the Federation's demands in an emergency session of the United Earth Council. The alien ultimatum was simple and brutal. Humanity would become a client species under Federation control, or they would be wiped from existence. There would be no middle ground, no compromise, no hope of negotiation. Santos stood before the assembled representatives of humanity and delivered her response. Her voice was steady and clear, carrying the weight of an entire species' determination. We have faced extinction before, and we have survived. We have been underestimated before, and we have prevailed. Today we choose to remain free or die trying. We do not kneel. Federation Admiral Krexmal clicked his mandibles together in anticipation as he watched the human deadline expire. The insectoid warrior had conquered 17 species in his long military career, and humans would be no different from the others. His massive fleet hung in space around Earth's solar system like a dark cloud. Ready to demonstrate the price of defiance, the bombardment began at precisely the moment the 72-hour ultimatum ended. Krexmal had learned through centuries of conquest that swift, overwhelming violence broke the spirit of resistance faster than prolonged siege. Bright lances of energy reached out from his ships toward the human colonies scattered throughout the system. New Geneva, humanity's mining colony in the asteroid belt, vanished in a flash of superheated plasma, the fusion reactors that powered. The station exploded in a chain reaction that lit up the darkness of space for several minutes. 3 million humans died in that first strike. Their final transmissions cut short as the station's communication array melted under alien fire. Commander Alex Turner watched the destruction of New Geneva from his command post on Europa Station, one of Jupiter's moon bases. His defensive platforms opened fire on the approaching Federation ships, their railguns hurling tungsten slugs at near-light speed toward the alien vessels. The projectiles struck the enemy shields and simply vanished, absorbed by some form of energy barrier that human science could not penetrate. Turner's communications officer reported that Mars Base 7 had gone silent, its defensive grid overwhelmed in less than an hour. The Federation ships moved through space with casual efficiency, destroying anything that offered resistance while ignoring targets that posed no threat. They were not interested in total destruction, only in breaking human military capability. As Europa Station's shields began to fail under concentrated alien fire, Turner transmitted everything his sensors had recorded about the Federation weapons and defenses back to Earth. The data burst contained crucial information about the energy frequencies the aliens used and the way their shield technology interacted with different types of attacks. Dr. Rebecca Stone received Turner's data in her laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, 3 kilometers underground and protected by layers of reinforced concrete and steel. Above her, Denver burned under orbital bombardment as Federation ships methodically destroyed every military installation on the planet's surface. The mountain shook with each impact, dust raining down from the ceiling as alien weapons carved craters in the landscape above. Rebecca studied the sensor readings with growing excitement despite the desperate situation. The Federation shields operated on quantum frequencies that created an impenetrable barrier against conventional weapons. But the system had a critical weakness. All the ships in their fleet were connected through a quantum network that synchronized their defensive systems. If that network could be disrupted, every ship in the Federation fleet would become vulnerable simultaneously. Captain Ben Clark commanded the last significant human fleet still operating in the outer system, hiding among the ice and rock of the Kuiper Belt. His ships were badly outmatched, with primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons facing enemies that moved faster than light and wielded the power of stars. Still, he continued to harass Federation supply lines, striking at isolated ships and disappearing. Back into the darkness before reinforcements could arrive, Clark's hit-and-run tactics accomplished little against the massive Federation armada, but they served an important purpose. Every attack provided more data about alien technology and tactics, information that flowed back to the resistance networks forming on Earth. The Federation had overwhelming superiority, but they were also becoming predictable in their methods. General Sam Rodriguez coordinated the evacuation of critical personnel and equipment from Earth's surface as the orbital bombardment intensified. Entire cities disappeared under alien fire, their populations either killed instantly or herded into detention. Camps by Federation ground forces. Sydney's Opera House collapsed in flames. London's ancient bridges crumbled into the Thames. New York's skyline vanished in columns of smoke and debris. The Federation broadcasts came every 6 hours, showing footage of destroyed human settlements and captured prisoners being marched at gunpoint into alien holding facilities. Ambassador Vextara appeared on every human communication channel, his reptilian face filling screens across the surviving human colonies. His message was always the same: surrender now and live. Continue fighting and face complete extinction. President Santos watched the destruction from her command bunker deep underground, surrounded by the military leaders who would determine humanity's fate. The situation reports painted a picture of total disaster. 70% of human military assets had been destroyed or captured. The Federation had not even committed their full fleet to the attack, treating the conquest of humanity as a minor police action. General Patricia Wells, head of Earth Defense Command, placed a classified file on the table in front of Santos. The document was marked with security clearances that most government officials did not even know existed. Wells had served in the military for 40 years, and Santos had never seen her look so grim. "Madam President," Wells said quietly, "there is one option we have not discussed. Project Pandora has been classified above top secret for 2 centuries, known only to a handful of people in each generation. If we activate it now, there will be no going back. The entire galaxy will know what humanity is truly capable of." Santos looked at the file but did not open it immediately. Around the table, her advisors waited in silence as explosions echoed through the mountain above them. The Federation was winning easily, demonstrating their technological superiority with every passing hour. Human resistance was crumbling, and the enemy had barely begun to exert their full strength. Finally, Santos opened the file and began to read. Her eyes widened as she absorbed the contents, understanding dawning on her face as she realized what humanity had been preparing for during all those years of seemingly peaceful expansion across the stars. When she finished reading, she looked up at Wells with new respect and perhaps a touch of fear. "How long have we been ready?" Santos asked. 200 years, Madam President. We have been waiting for exactly this scenario since the day we detected the first alien probe in our solar system. Everything since then has been preparation for this moment." Santos closed the file and made the decision that would change the course of galactic history. Activate Project Pandora. It is time to show the Federation what mercy looks like when humans are the ones dispensing it. Colonel Nick Foster stood in the depths of the Nevada facility that officially did not exist, watching as decades of careful preparation finally came to life. The corridors around him hummed with activity as technicians activated systems that had remained dormant for generations, waiting for this exact moment. Project Pandora was humanity's greatest secret, and Foster had devoted his entire career to keeping it that way. Dr. Amy Johnson walked beside him through the underground complex, her footsteps echoing off walls lined with quantum computers and manufacturing systems that represented the true pinnacle of human technology. She had inherited the project from her predecessor 20 years ago, just as he had inherited it from his predecessor, creating an unbroken chain of knowledge that stretched back 2 centuries. The Federation believes they are facing primitive humans with chemical rockets and kinetic weapons, Amy said as they passed a hangar filled with sleek black ships that bore no resemblance to any human vessel the aliens had encountered. They have no idea that we have been preparing for their arrival since before their first probe entered our solar system. Foster nodded grimly as he remembered the day humanity first detected alien surveillance. The probe had been well hidden, nearly impossible to spot with conventional sensors, but human scientists had found it anyway. Instead of announcing the discovery or attempting to make contact, the world's governments had made a different choice. They decided to prepare for war. Captain Troy Mason powered up his ship in the darkness between star systems, 3 light-years from the nearest inhabited world. The UES Vengeance had been drifting in cold space for 15 years, its crew in rotating hibernation cycles, waiting for the activation signal that had finally come. Around him, 49 other identical vessels came online simultaneously, their quantum stealth systems keeping them invisible to Federation sensors. These ships represented everything humanity had learned about alien technology from decades of careful study. The crashed probe that started it all had provided crucial insights into Federation manufacturing techniques and energy systems. Subsequent intelligence operations had gathered more data, allowing human scientists to reverse engineer and improve upon alien designs. The Vengeance's black hole reactor came online with a barely perceptible hum, providing more power than an entire human fleet from the previous generation. Mason's weapon systems activated next, revealing armaments that could crack planets and shields that could withstand stellar radiation. His ship was invisible, nearly invulnerable, and more powerful than anything the Federation had ever encountered. Back on Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison received the activation codes that would change everything. Emergency Protocol 7 had been theoretical for so long that many officers doubted it actually existed. Now Morrison found himself entering commands that would reveal humanity's true capabilities to a galaxy that had underestimated them completely. Across human space, hidden installations that had masqueraded as mining operations and research stations for decades suddenly revealed their true purpose. Defensive systems that had remained carefully offline and invisible to Federation scans came to life all at once. Weapon platforms emerged from asteroid fields where they had been disguised as natural rock formations. Shield generators buried beneath the surfaces of human worlds activated simultaneously. Commander Julie Price stood on the bridge of the fortress world Cerberus Prime, watching as her planet's true nature became visible for the first time. What the Federation had dismissed as a minor human colony was actually the most heavily defended position in known space, with enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. The planet's surface opened like a flower, revealing missile silos and energy cannons that had been hidden for over a century. Price's first target was the Federation Supply Depot at Volf 359, a logistical hub that supported alien operations across 3 sectors. Her long-range missiles launched silently through hyperspace, emerging inside the depot's shields and detonating before the Federation forces could react. The explosion was visible from 12 light-years away as the depot's fusion reactors went critical. Admiral Clark Turner led his fleet toward the Federation stronghold around Titan, where enemy forces had established a forward base in Saturn's rings. The aliens had chosen the location for its strategic value, using the planet's magnetic field and ring debris to enhance their defensive position. They had not considered that humans might turn those same features against them. Turner's ships moved through the rings like ghosts, their stealth systems rendering them invisible against the backdrop of ice and rock. When they finally revealed themselves, it was with a coordinated strike that used Titan's own magnetic field to disrupt the Federation's quantum shields. For the first time in the war, human weapons punched through alien defenses. The Battle of Titan's rings became a turning point that neither side had expected. Federation Admiral Krexmal watched in shock as his supposedly invincible fleet came under attack from weapons that should not have existed. Human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the ring system, striking with precision and disappearing before his forces could respond effectively. Krexmal had conquered 17 species in his military career, but none of them had ever surprised him like this. The humans were using tactics and technology that defied everything the Federation knew about their capabilities. Worse, they were winning through superior strategy and firepower. Not just desperate courage. Dr. Rebecca Stone's quantum frequency disruptor finally came online in her underground laboratory, sending a signal that propagated through hyperspace, faster than light itself. The signal struck the Federation's quantum shield network like a virus, creating cascading failures that spread from ship to ship across their entire fleet. In a matter of minutes, every Federation vessel in the solar system found itself vulnerable for the first time in centuries. Human forces that had been hiding throughout the system struck simultaneously, emerging from stealth to attack Federation ships whose shields had suddenly failed. The aliens' technological superiority evaporated in a single moment, replaced by confused panic as they faced enemies they could no longer easily defeat. Captain Ben Clark's raiders in the Kuiper Belt received the signal to begin full offensive operations, abandoning their hit-and-run tactics for direct assault. His ships accelerated out of the darkness toward the main Federation fleet, their new weapons charging as they prepared to test alien armor against human determination. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and Clark intended to make the lesson memorable. The Federation's easy conquest of humanity had become something very different, and Admiral Krexmal began to understand that his species had made a terrible mistake in underestimating the small blue world and its stubborn inhabitants. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood on the command deck of her assault ship as it approached Kepler 442b, the Federation fortress world that had never fallen to enemy attack in 3,000 years of galactic warfare. The planet's surface bristled with defensive installations and energy shields that could repel entire fleets, but Mitchell was not planning a conventional assault. Humanity had learned that conventional tactics were exactly what their enemies expected. The Federation stronghold orbited a red dwarf star in a system that provided perfect natural defenses. The planet's position created gravitational anomalies that disrupted faster-than-light travel, forcing attacking fleets to approach through predictable corridors that Federation weapons could easily target. Every species that had attempted to take Kepler 442b had failed, their ships destroyed long before they could reach the planet's surface. Mitchell's approach was different. Her ships used quantum tunneling technology reverse-engineered from captured Federation equipment, allowing them to bypass the gravitational barriers that protected the fortress world. When her fleet materialized inside the planet's defensive perimeter, the alien garrison found themselves facing an enemy that had appeared from nowhere. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Federation forces had grown accustomed to fighting from positions of technological superiority, knowing that their enemies could never match their capabilities. Now they faced humans who not only matched their technology but improved upon it, using Federation science more effectively than the Federation itself. Commander Rick Stone led the assault on Proxima Station, the Federation's primary military shipyard and the source of most of their advanced warships. The facility was protected by overlapping energy fields and patrolled by automated defense systems that had been perfected over millennia. Stone's weapon was something the Federation had never encountered and could not defend against: human nanite. Swarms poured from concealed launchers hidden in cargo containers that had been drifting toward the station for months. The microscopic machines were programmed with one simple directive: they would consume any material not tagged with specific human identification codes, breaking down molecular bonds and converting matter into more nanites that could continue the process. The Federation watched in horror as their most advanced shipyard began to dissolve from within. Hull plating, support structures, and manufacturing equipment all succumbed to the relentless nanite assault. Within hours, a facility that had taken decades to construct was reduced to its component atoms, floating in space as an expanding cloud of basic elements. Dr. Helen Gray worked from her mobile research laboratory aboard the UES Discovery, analyzing Federation communication networks that human intelligence had finally cracked. The aliens used quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across galactic distances, but their encryption methods were based on mathematical principles that human computers could eventually solve through brute force calculation. Gray's breakthrough gave humanity access to every Federation military transmission, allowing human commanders to intercept battle plans and fleet movements before the enemy could implement them. The psychological effect on Federation forces was profound. They found themselves constantly outmaneuvered by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. High Counselor Zethkara convened an emergency session of the Federation Council on their capital world of Nexus Prime, struggling to comprehend how their carefully planned conquest had become a fight for survival. The ancient Zephyrian had ruled the galaxy for over 2 centuries, overseeing the subjugation of dozens of species with methodical efficiency. The reports from the front lines painted a picture that challenged everything Zethkara believed about the natural order of the galaxy. Humans were not just resisting Federation conquest. They were winning through superior strategy and technology that seemed to improve with every engagement. Species that had bowed before Federation might were now rallying behind human leadership. General Lucy Foster's military doctrine had been developed through centuries of secret war games and theoretical scenarios, refined by officers who knew they would face technologically superior opponents. The doctrine emphasized speed, unpredictability, and the psychological warfare that exploited enemy assumptions about human capabilities. Foster's strategies proved devastatingly effective against Federation forces that had grown complacent through millennia of easy victories. While the aliens had developed their tactics against enemies who fought conventionally, humans approached warfare as a problem to be solved through innovation and adaptation rather than brute force. Admiral Kevin Wright commanded the growing human fleet that was pushing deeper into Federation space with each passing month. His forces had liberated 17 worlds from Federation control and refugee populations that had suffered under alien rule for generations welcomed human forces as liberators rather than conquerors. Wright's fleet had grown from captured Federation ships and equipment, with human engineers improving alien designs to create hybrid vessels that combined the best of both technologies. These ships carried crews drawn from the liberated worlds, creating a truly galactic force united in opposition to Federation oppression. The roles had completely reversed from the early days of the war. Now it was Federation civilians who packed desperately into evacuation ships while human warships darkened their skies. Alien refugees fled before advancing human forces, abandoning worlds their species had controlled for thousands of years. Federation Admiral Krexmal found himself in the unfamiliar position of fighting a defensive war against an enemy that refused to follow established patterns of galactic warfare. His species had perfected the art of conquest through overwhelming technological superiority, but humans had found ways to neutralize that advantage and turn it against the Federation. The insectoid admiral's mandibles clicked nervously as he reviewed casualty reports from across Federation space. Entire fleets had been destroyed or captured by human forces that seemed to materialize from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. Fortress worlds that had stood unconquered for millennia fell to human assault within days or hours. Commander Julie Price received reports from human intelligence networks that were spreading throughout Federation space, recruiting from populations that had never willingly joined the alien alliance. These networks provided crucial information about Federation troop movements and military installations, while spreading propaganda that encouraged resistance among subjugated species. The psychological impact on Federation forces continued to worsen as reports of human capabilities spread through their ranks. Soldiers who had enlisted believing they were part of an invincible military machine now faced enemies who seemed to know their every move and counter their every strategy. Morale collapsed as the myth of Federation invincibility crumbled. Captain Troy Mason's stealth fleet had grown from 50 ships to over 300 as human manufacturing facilities worked around the clock to produce vessels that could match or exceed Federation capabilities. These ships prowled the space lanes between Federation worlds, interdicting supplies and reinforcements. While gathering intelligence for future operations, the Federation began broadcasting desperate pleas for negotiation, offering concessions and territorial compromises that would have been unthinkable at the war's beginning. But humanity's response remained consistent. There would be no negotiated settlement, no partial victory, no mercy for those who had shown none. The Federation would surrender unconditionally or face complete destruction. Admiral Kevin Wright stood on the command deck of his flagship as the largest human fleet ever assembled moved into position around Nexus Prime, the Federation capital world that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. 3,000 human warships surrounded the planet in perfect formation, their weapons trained on the world below where 40 billion aliens, huddled in underground shelters. The journey to this moment had taken 2 years of relentless warfare, pushing Federation forces back across dozens of star systems as human military might grew stronger with each victory. Wright's fleet included ships captured from the enemy and improved with human technology, creating hybrid vessels that combine the best aspects of both civilizations while serving under human command. Hi, Counselor Zethkara transmitted his surrender offer from the deepest bunker on Nexus Prime, his ancient voice crackling through quantum communicators as he addressed the human fleet surrounding his world. The proud Zephyrian who had ruled the galaxy for centuries now spoke with the desperation of a defeated leader facing the extinction of everything he had built. Humanity has proven its strength, Zethkara said, his reptilian features showing exhaustion and defeat on every screen throughout human space. The Federation acknowledges your victory and offers complete withdrawal from all human territory. We will pay reparations for the damage we have caused and submit our military forces to human oversight. This war can end today if you show mercy to the defeated. President Maria Santos received the surrender offer aboard the command ship UES Retribution in orbit around Nexus Prime, surrounded by her military staff and the officers who had fought to bring humanity to this moment of total victory. The easy path lay before them. They could accept the Federation's surrender and claim their place as the dominant power in the galaxy. General Sam Rodriguez stood at Santos's right side, his weathered face showing the strain of 2 years of constant warfare. Admiral Jake Morrison flanked her left, his uniform bearing decorations from battles that had broken Federation power across a dozen worlds. Around the conference table sat the commanders who had transformed humanity from victims to victors. Santos looked at each of her officers in turn, reading the mixture of satisfaction and uncertainty in their faces. They had achieved everything humanity could have hoped for when the war began. The Federation was broken, their fleets scattered, their worlds defenseless. Victory was complete and total, requiring nothing more than acceptance of the enemies. Surrender. Instead, Santos activated the fleet-wide communication system and delivered a speech that would echo through galactic history for millennia to come. Her voice was calm and steady, carrying the weight of humanity's collective memory and the pain of every world the Federation had burned during their brief period of apparent victory. The Federation offers us mercy now that they face defeat. Santos said, her words transmitted to every human ship and every Federation world simultaneously. They speak of reparations and oversight, of withdrawal and submission. They offer us everything we might have accepted before they showed us their true nature. The President paused, letting her words sink in as she thought of New Geneva burning in space and Sydney collapsing under orbital bombardment. She remembered the detention camps where human prisoners had been herded like animals and the casual contempt with which Federation forces had treated human life. But mercy must be earned, not demanded, Santos continued. The Federation had every opportunity to show compassion when they held the advantage. Instead, they chose to demonstrate their superiority through the systematic destruction of our worlds and the enslavement of our people. They treated humanity as animals to be caged rather than people to be respected. Captain Danny Miller led human forces on the surface of Nexus Prime as they occupied Federation government buildings that had stood unconquered for millennia. Alien officials who had once decreed the fate of entire species now cowered behind barricades as human soldiers marched through halls of power that had never known defeat. The symbolism was powerful and intentional. Federation leaders were forced to surrender in the same chambers where they had planned the conquest, an enslavement of dozens of species over thousands of years. The mighty had fallen, and their defeat was witnessed by representatives of every world they had oppressed. Miller's troops maintained perfect discipline as they secured Federation archives and communication centers, but the psychological impact on the alien population was devastating. These beings had ruled the galaxy through technological superiority and military might for so long that they had forgotten what defeat felt like. The Federation's member species began to fracture as each group attempted to negotiate separate peace deals with humanity. The proud Chronari warrior caste offered to serve as human auxiliaries in exchange for survival of their species. The technologically advanced Xerians promised to share all their scientific knowledge and manufacturing capabilities. The ancient Vridcallers, who had not bowed to anyone in 50,000 years of galactic history, prostrated themselves before human negotiators and begged for the privilege of serving under human authority. Each species offered whatever they thought might save them from the fate that seemed to await those who had opposed humanity. Dr. Helen Gray intercepted these desperate communications from her intelligence station aboard Wright's flagship, documenting the complete collapse of Federation unity as former allies turned against each other in hopes of earning human favor. The alliance that had conquered the galaxy was dissolving as its members sought individual salvation. But humanity's answer to each plea remained consistent and uncompromising. There would be no separate deals, no negotiated settlements, no mercy for those who had shown none when they held the advantage. The Federation had chosen to treat humanity as a single entity to be conquered or destroyed, and humanity would respond in kind. Santos addressed the broken Federation leadership one final time as human forces completed their occupation of Nexus, Prime, and the surrounding star systems. Her message was broadcast across the galaxy so that every intelligent species would understand the new reality that human victory had created. The Federation offered humanity a choice between slavery and extinction, Santos said from her position aboard the UES Retribution. Today, we offer the Federation the same choice they once offered us: submit completely to human authority or face the consequences of continued resistance. There will be no compromise, no negotiation, no mercy for those who showed none. The ultimatum was clear and final. The Federation that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years would either surrender unconditionally to human authority or face complete annihilation. The choice was theirs, but the terms were humanity's to dictate. Admiral Wright prepared his fleet for whatever decision the Federation would make, knowing that human forces were now strong enough to enforce their will across the entire galaxy. The hunters had become the hunted, the oppressed had become the oppressors, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Federation's response would determine whether they faced enslavement or extinction, but either way, their age of dominance was over. Humanity had refused to show mercy, and that refusal would reshape galactic civilization for generations to come. Judge Patricia Coleman looked down from her bench at the kneeling figure of High Counselor Zethkara, the ancient Zephyrian who had ruled the galaxy for over 2 centuries, now reduced to wearing prisoner chains in a human courtroom. 5 years had passed since the Federation's attack on Earth, and the surviving Federation leadership now faced judgment for their crimes against humanity and countless other species. The Human Galactic Tribunal had been constructed in orbit around Earth as a symbol of the new order that human victory had created. The massive station served as both courthouse and administrative center for the human government that now ruled galactic civilization, its chambers filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds that had been liberated from Federation control. Coleman had served as a colonial administrator on Mars before the war, managing civilian populations and resource allocation for human settlements throughout the solar system. Now she presided over the fate of entire civilizations, weighing evidence of crimes that spanned millennia and affected billions of sentient beings across the galaxy. The evidence presented against the Federation leadership was overwhelming in its scope and devastating in its detail. Human forces had recovered complete records from Federation archives, documenting thousands of years of systematic oppression, slavery, and genocide committed against species that had dared to resist alien rule. World after world had been stripped of its resources and population, with native species either enslaved or driven to extinction for the convenience of Federation expansion. The Federation's own records showed the casual contempt with which they had treated other forms of life, viewing entire civilizations as obstacles to be removed or resources to be exploited. Admiral Kevin Wright served as humanity's first galactic fleet commander, overseeing the dismantling of Federation military installations throughout the galaxy, while maintaining the largest armed force in known history. The lesson of Federation aggression had not been forgotten, and humanity maintained the strength necessary to prevent any future challenges to the new galactic order. Wright's fleets patrolled every star system where human authority extended, ensuring that former Federation worlds remained peaceful and that no species attempted to fill the power vacuum left by alien defeat. The message was clear to any civilization that might consider following the Federation's example. Humanity remembered what happened to those who chose conquest over cooperation. Dr. Helen Gray accepted her appointment as Director of Galactic Sciences with the understanding that her primary mission was to redistribute Federation technology to the species they had oppressed for so long. Worlds that had been kept in technological darkness for centuries suddenly gained access to interstellar travel, advanced manufacturing, and medical techniques that transformed their civilizations. Overnight, Gray's redistribution program was designed to prevent any single species from dominating the galaxy as the Federation had done. By sharing advanced technology with all civilizations equally, humanity ensured that future conflicts would be fought between equals rather than between oppressors and victims. Captain Clark Turner accepted his appointment as governor of the former Federation core worlds, implementing humanity's new galactic policy throughout the territories that had once been the heart of alien power. Unlike the Federation's exploitative system that existed to benefit the ruling species at the expense of everyone else, human administration focused on mutual benefit and development for all species. Turner's administration created the first truly representative government the galaxy had ever known, with former Federation subjects gaining rights, representation, and opportunities that their ancestors could never have imagined. The irony was not lost on anyone that humanity, which the Federation had planned to enslave, was now providing freedom to species that had been enslaved for generations. The transformation was remarkable and unprecedented in galactic history. Worlds that had suffered under Federation oppression for centuries began to flourish under human guidance, their populations free to develop their own cultures and technologies without alien interference. Trade flourished between species that had been kept separate by Federation policy designed to prevent cooperation between subject peoples. Former Federation subjects discovered that humans were very different from their previous rulers, where the Federation had ruled through fear and technological superiority. Humans ruled through consensus and mutual benefit. Where the Federation had exploited other species for their own gain, humans shared the benefits of galactic civilization with everyone equally, but humanity had not forgotten the lesson of Federation aggression or abandoned the military strength that had won them control of the galaxy. Earth maintained defensive forces that dwarfed anything the Federation had ever possessed, with human fleets capable of destroying entire star systems if necessary to maintain galactic peace. The former Federation leadership faced different fates based on their individual roles in the crimes committed against humanity and other species. Some were executed for their direct participation in genocide and slavery, while others received long prison sentences that would keep them confined for the remainder of their natural lives. Zethkara himself received a sentence that reflected both the scope of his crimes and humanity's understanding of justice. He would spend the rest of his extended lifespan in confinement, forced to witness the prosperity and freedom that the galaxy enjoyed under human leadership, while remembering the oppression and suffering that had characterized his own rule. President Santos, now elderly but still serving as Earth's leader, addressed the first galactic assembly under human authority as representatives from 300 species, gathered to draft the new galactic constitution. The document would establish the legal framework for a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest, equality rather than domination. We gather here not as conquerors and conquered, But as equals in a galaxy that belongs to all of us, Santos said to the assembled delegates. The Federation's mistake was believing that strength gave them the right to oppress others. We must never forget that strength carries the responsibility to protect the weak rather than exploit them. The new Galactic Constitution established principles that would have been unthinkable under Federation rule. Every species had the right to self-determination within their own territory, while participating equally in galactic government and trade. No species could dominate another, and conflicts would be resolved through negotiation and law rather than force. The document also established the legal framework for the Galactic Defense Force, a military organization commanded by humans but staffed by volunteers from every member species. The force existed to protect galactic civilization from external threats and to prevent any species from attempting to recreate the Federation's oppressive empire. Dos Santos concluded her address by reminding the Assembly of the price of aggression and the value of peace under human protection. The galaxy had learned through bitter experience that freedom was not free and that those who threatened the liberty of others would face the combined might of every free species in the galaxy. The Federation begged for mercy when they faced defeat, Santos said in her closing remarks. Humanity refused that plea because mercy must be earned through justice, not granted through weakness. Today we establish a galaxy where mercy is shown to those who deserve it and justice is delivered to those who do not. The new galactic civilization that emerged from humanity's victory was stronger, more prosperous, and more just than anything that had existed under Federation rule. Species that had been enemies for generations learned to cooperate as equals, while worlds that had been stripped bare by alien exploitation began to heal and flourish once again. In the end, the galaxy did beg for mercy, and humanity's refusal to grant it became the foundation of a better future for every species in known space. Sometimes mercy must be earned rather than given, and some crimes are too great to forgive. The Federation learned this lesson too late, but their defeat ensured that future generations would never again face the choice between slavery and extinction.